if you do believe that the fight for America is real, what do you think's at stake?
Everything, like your future, everything.
You can't go against it, because then if you go against it, then you're putting everything at risk. Then you're going to be targeted. Then you're going to be scrutinized.
All of a sudden, Kamala's saying she wants to finish the wall. Wait a minute. 6 years ago, you said it was a vanity wall and it was a racist wall. Now she's saying that she's pro-guns. Oh, I own a gun, she said the other day. If somebody comes to my house, I'm shooting them. You guys have been anti-gun for a very long time.
What do you think is the solution? What do you think is the unification of a country that seems so divided right now?
Well, the first thing is that Democrats have to admit that they are the problem more than anything else. And I say this because
something I grew up on, right, in elementary school, middle school, high school, is that I remember it was just conversation between friends and stuff like that they would be like, well, I'm not really into politics. Like there was always an election, it was Obama, somebody was
don't
Trump,
talk about
Hillary.
politics and talk about religion.
Yeah, don't talk about politics. That's something I say, don't I grew up, don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion, keep that out of business. And then, I'm just not into politics. And now, I saw a CNN interview. I don't know, you saw it for sure, the CNN of the kids.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, wow, interesting. What do you think is the importance of the younger generation now getting involved into politics?
Well, I think those are children. So I would leave children out of it, like that young.
Younger generation meaning high school, college, or younger voters.
So that I thought was super weird because I wouldn't really want my child at 8 years old or whatever talking about politics. But I think starting in high school or even middle school, it's important to at least know your civics. Like, remember how I used to have civics class, right? And then you learn about history, American history as well. So I think it's really important to at least start getting kids or younger people educated on elections, on how our system works. A lot of people call America or the United States a democracy, which we are in a way, but this is also a constitutional republic. And it's weird that people don't use that term, right? This is a constitutional republic. Every state has different laws. And so that goes to show you that our education sucks, which we already know that, especially public education. And also there's so many people, like I've been watching all these videos of FIU students and students. Most of them are pro-Trump, right? When they're like doing the street interviews, like, oh, Trump, Trump, Trump. But I guarantee you 60 to 70% of those adults, because they are adults over 18, are not registered to vote. And a lot of them won't even make it to the polls on election day, right? And they don't know about mail-in voting, all this stuff. So we are missing a great opportunity to captivate those people. I do think that Turning Point USA, through their college like rallies or whatever you want to call it, they have registrations. They have registrations. They're doing a great job in trying to like activate and get that base going, but there's a lot more work to be done.
Do you think that comes from a distaste or a disinterest? Because clearly people are interested enough to speak out against it, to go pro-Trump, to go onto the street, wear the MAGA hats. Like, why do you think that it stops there and that they don't want to go the extra step? Is it something, there's a distaste for it? Like, why do you think that is?
People are just lazy. I'm telling you, people are very lazy. And that, like, I know it's kind of like a negative word, but it's what I have experienced. I just registered a friend of mine who's a Trump supporter 2 nights ago. We were all hanging out, a group of friends, and he's not registered to vote, and he's pro-Trump. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you're a voter that we need. So I registered him right then and there. I've done that to 2 people that I know are pro-Trump. So a lot of people are just lazy. They just don't take the time to do stuff. And, it's across the aisle. Although I'll say that Democrats have always been better at activism than Republicans have, because Republicans have always had the mentality of like, well, I'm busy working, I'm busy running a business, I'm busy raising a family. And Democrats are like, I'm not that busy. I have a family, I have work, I have a business, but either I donate money to these organizations or in my free time, I'll become active. Right, we've seen that with like the pro-choice movement. We see that with social justice causes like BLM. So they are more proactive when it comes to activism. And I think that the Trump presidency and the era has changed. There's a lot more conservative organizations that were created post-Trump who fight for, constitutional rights,
100%.
who fight in legal and lawfare battles, who, like Turning Point USA tries to engage young people. So there has been change on the right, but there's more work to be done.
I heard you talk about that. Something you talked about, the event that you went to with Miami Young Republicans, that you mentioned that this, we can't get mad that we're losing to the side. We can't get mad because we were losing to the left, because they're outworking us. It's simple.
They outwork Republicans every day.
So do you also think that the lack of not getting involved comes from, there's no way Kamala's going to win. There's no way these radical people are going to win. How is it possible? Like, we got to, like too much confidence in that?
Yeah, somewhat. I think that, like, for example, I posted a story yesterday on my Instagram. It was a fundraising email that the Harris Walz campaign sent, saying that Trump was up in 3 battle states, Arizona, Pennsylvania, I think, in Georgia. And it's still very close to the margin. Like, the margins are very close. It's like 40% Kamala and 50% Trump, something like that. And people were responding to me saying, oh my God, how could this be? Like, why is it so close? I can't believe so many people like support this. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, what do you mean? Of course it's that close. Like, that many people. You're talking about a population of 320 million people, right? That's the population of America. Obviously, not everybody is registered to vote. Not everybody's eligible to vote. Of course, you have different beliefs. You have people that consume information different than you and I. You and I may be more prone to consuming alternative media, influencers like myself who post about the news, whereas Democrats are more into traditional media. They listen to CNN, MSNBC, Fox, whatever it may be. So, and conservatives or Republicans, I don't want to use the word conservative, Republicans view Democrats, there's always the accusation of socialism, communism, the radical left, things like that, right? Which I'm not saying they're not, but they don't view themselves that way. Does that make sense? And just look,
Democrats don't view themselves that way.
Democrats don't view themselves as socialists or communists or radicals. They view themselves as, we are benevolent. We care about minorities. We care about gay people. We care about transgender kids. We care about, everything that they care about. We care about climate. They think they're benevolent. They don't think any of the policies or things that they say are radical, right? We may view that way. I may view them that way. So there's a really big disconnect between how their voters view the party and our voters view them, and vice versa. Because in the same token, Democrats, especially since Trump, since the first Trump presidency, they've accused Republicans of being fascist, white supremacist, racist, bigots, and all these other, and radicals. January 6th happened, the insurrection, they try to overturn, they try to steal the election, all these things. So we've been viewing each other like enemies for a really long time. And I think a lot of it has to do with media consumption. And when I speak to my Democrat friends, they are so busy in their day-to-day that they don't pay attention to the intricacies or the smaller things that I pay attention to. Like, they have no idea what's going on in the school system. They don't know that there's books that have like pornographic material talking about incest, talking about anal sex. They don't know that. So they think that people like myself are crazy. Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, dude, I've seen the books. Look at the material. So it's a really big disconnect.
And then it gets normalized, because then if you speak out against it, then you're against them. And then there's that collision, because there's a book in FIU that it's a gay dictionary, an LGBTQ book, and it has like 500 pages of it. And I opened up the first thing, it was a Gaysian. I was like, why does this have to be in the part of the educational system? And I think it's a part of what you said. It's like, you can't go against it, because then if you go against it, then you're putting everything at risk. Then you're going to be targeted. Then you're going to be scrutinized. And something that you talk about, that you are actively getting attacked, that you're actively getting accusation, threats against you. It's like, maybe that's why people don't want to go to that side, because it's gotten so radical, so much division, that's like, well, if I speak out against them, let me see what's in my favor. I speak out against them. They may kick me out of the school. Okay. They may kick me out of my job. Okay. It's going to affect my business. Like, do you think maybe that's why people are like...
That is why people don't speak up, but the culture has changed. Like, wearing a MAGA hat 8 years ago in 2016 was almost detrimental to your well-being. Like, you would probably be fired, right? You may, depending on the state, may get your ass kicked by radicals. Now, it's so much more normalized. Like, what I think happened was the 8 years of the Trump movement, the MAGA movement, the Make America Great Again movement, brought in a lot of people like myself. You'd say DC Drano is another one. I can name hundreds of influencers that have changed that perception and have normalized being a Trump supporter. And a lot of us have taken hits, right? Like we've taken L's, like the kids would say, whether it's business-wise, whether it's whatever it may be. We've taken L's. Being banned from social media. I was banned all of 2021 on Instagram. I had to fight for my account. I was banned on Twitter in 2019. I'm actually still part of a lawsuit with President Trump and the America First policy against Twitter 1.0. So basically what happened was when President Trump left office, or when January 6th happened, they banned him everywhere. They banned him on Twitter, on Meta, which is Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I mean, even freaking Spotify banned President Trump. And by that point, I was already banned. I had been banned in 2019. And many conservatives had been banned in 2018. DC Drano, who's a huge conservative influencer, was banned for questioning the election. So when that happened and Trump left office, there's this organization called the America First Policy. And this organization was founded and it's ran by a lot of Trump alumni. So a lot of people that worked under the Trump administration. Brooke Rollins, Linda McMahon, and I don't know if you know these people, but they're big dogs. They're big dogs. And they said, okay, well, Trump is now a citizen, right? Former president, no longer president. We want to sue these companies. So they called me and they said, do you want to be part of this lawsuit? And I said, okay, what lawsuit? And they said, Twitter, like, we know you were banned and we'd want you to be part of this lawsuit. And I said, okay, like, sure. And they didn't want to tell me, because it was kind of like an NDA, that President Trump was going to be the main, person suing, and I would be part of the lawsuit with him. So if you look up my name, it's actually really cool. You'll see Donald J. Trump, Linda Quadros, and the America First policy against, Twitter.
Cool story to tell your
So
kids.
really cool, yeah. And we were dismissed. The judge dismissed the first. So we filed the lawsuit. Some of the best lawyers in America, people that went against Big Tobacco back in the day, representing us, and they dismissed the lawsuit because they said Twitter is a private company and they're allowed to ban whoever they want, whenever they want, without any explanation. So we started that in 2021, it's 2024, that was 3 years ago. But what ended up happening was when Elon Musk bought Twitter, all of this stuff came out about how Twitter 1.0 was being ran and how the federal government was telling Twitter who to ban. So because of that, our lawyer was able to go back and refile the lawsuit and say, hey, we have new evidence that in fact, Twitter wasn't acting on its own, it was acting by commands of the government, which is a big deal. Imagine the federal government telling a private company what to do, who to ban. So our lawsuit it's back on, and we'll see what happens. I'm back on Twitter because Elon Musk gave us, asylum, everybody that could, was able to get reinstated. So I'm back on Twitter on my original account, Wake Up with Linda, but it was 3 years without being on Twitter. I could have had hundreds of thousands of followers, millions of followers, possibly. I'm only at 22K because of that. So, a lot of us have taken L's, I would say.
So going back to the, I was talking about the left and the right, the Republicans, Democrats, they're saying that there is a division because this side says, hey, you're radical, and then that side says, hey, you're radical. I mean, I may be naive, but I'm young, and the way that I see it is I don't think division of the country, division of both sides, and just constantly blame is ever going to get anywhere. I think having some form of agreement, say, hey, you're in favor of America, right?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm in favor of America too. What is that you disagree? Are you voting for hate? You're voting because you hate the personality? Well, I don't think the elections is a personality test. I think it's a leader that's going to run the country. Isn't that what you think? Oh, yeah, you know, like that conversation is not really had. It's more just division. I mean, what do you think is the solution? What do you think is the unification of a country that seems so divided right now?
Well, the first thing is that Democrats have to admit that they are the problem more than anything else. And I say this because I voted for Clinton in 2016. I was a Democrat. I was a registered Democrat. I voted for Clinton. I voted against Trump. That was my first election ever. And
can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Did you vote for against Trump because of the hate in the media against him?
Somewhat, but also because I felt, since Hillary Clinton was already Secretary of State under Barack Obama and she had been in the government for so long, I felt that she was more qualified than Trump. I didn't look at Trump as somebody that was qualified enough to run the country, which was obviously a mistake because he is a businessman and America is a business more than anything else. Some of the hate, for sure, I bought into it. So that's how I know that they're in the wrong. Like, you can't tell me, like, you lost me as a voter. So you need to convince me, like, that you're not the bad person. But what they did was push people like me away. They pushed moderates away. And they did that on their own. And there's hundreds, if not millions, of voters like me. There was a whole movement born in 2018 called Walk Away, created by a gay man, Brandon Straka, who had a viral video, and this video was basically him saying, I'm walking away from the left, and here, this is the reason why. And then millions of people said, you know what, me too, that's exactly how I feel. So the left doesn't want to admit that they are the problem, but they are, and that doesn't mean that Republicans are perfect or that there's things that I disagree on them with, but they're the ones gaining voters. So if they're the ones gaining moderate voters and people like me who were once registered Democrats, what does that tell you? That the Democrats are the problem, and they don't want to admit that. What they have done now in this election, since Kamala replaced Biden, was that they're trying to convince us that their radical ways never happened, right? Now, all of a sudden, Kamala's saying she wants to finish the wall. Wait a minute. 6 years ago, you said it was a vanity wall and it was a racist wall, right? Now she's saying that she's pro-guns. Oh, I own a gun, she said the other day. If somebody comes to my house, I'm shooting them. You guys have been anti-gun for a very long time. So they're trying to convince us that they're not these radicals that they were 8 years ago, 4 years ago. But we remember what happened during the George Floyd protest. That super radicalized me. Like, I was so angry when that was going on because there was the social media pressure on putting a black square for a criminal. And then if you didn't, people
were demonized. You were demonized if you didn't put that.
At that point, I was a Trump supporter, so I didn't give a fuck. I was like, whatever. Like, you can call me a racist. I don't care. I'm not gonna do anything.
I think it was like 14, 13 when that happened. I remember all my friends. You just brought back a memory. All my friends had put that, and I was like, I didn't put that. I was like,
and it didn't stop there. It also went on to force local municipalities, states, and counties to change, to, loosen our laws for the police. What is it called? Police reform or whatever. It was that they were forcing companies to bring in black businesses. Things that in America, you do things based on hard work, ethics. 100%. And it's not like, oh, I'm black, give me space at Nordstrom because I have a black business. And that happened. That genuinely happened. Where places, I think it was Nordstrom, one of them, a bunch of these companies were like, oh, we're gonna, 30% of our business has to be black owned. What? Why? Like, what if your business genuinely sucks and you just have to take in this business because, it's black owned? Same thing with affirmative action. There was a lawsuit by Asian students because universities like Harvard Law, Princeton, etc., we're accepting minorities, Hispanics, and blacks over white people and Asians. And not based on merit, not based on testing, but all based on skin color, which to me is very racist. And the Supreme Court actually agreed with the Asian students and the organization that sued, and they got rid of it. So what's happened is that the Harvard, it came out the other day, I think it was Harvard, these Ivy League universities, like now we're seeing that Asians and whites are once again, the top accepting races in those schools. It's like, if you need to get open heart surgery, are you going to get a black person to do it because you feel bad? Because you know?
I had actually yesterday, 2 days ago, I had a conversation with Tom Ellsworth, co-host of PBD podcast, and he said, let me give you an example, okay? So you have two doctors, you're walking, you're running into the hospital, okay? And you need heart surgery. That guy's 98 and 2. He's done 100 operations. Only 2 have died. The 2 that died, they were obese, everything. But he did 98. But he's a jerk. He's a jerk. He's not a good person. But this guy's, he's liked. He's very well respected. He hasn't done anything, but, he's very well educated. He read all the books. I mean, like, who are you depending on? Like, who would you go to? I was like, well, I'm okay with the jerk. He's like, well, that's exactly what's happening in America. Yeah. And I was like, interesting take. And
it's happening everywhere. Like, everything now is trying to give an advantage to, I don't know, minorities. And I'm a minority. I think you're right. You're a minority as well. But like when I applied I used to work in corporate. I worked at Heineken USA for 5 years. And right after college, I got a great job. But I worked hard for that job. And there was 100 applicants, including people from their own company that wanted to get that role. And I simply performed best, So they gave me the job. And that's the way it should be, right?
100%.
So despite
100%.
being a minority, a woman and an immigrant and, whatever, Latina, I got the job versus over men, over white people, over blacks, over anybody else, 100 applicants. And, when the company was restructured and they cut my position, my boss, white man at the time from Michigan, he could have just let me go and given it to the way that it was restructured. So my job was slashed, right? Basically, they tell you, here's a severance package. Sorry, your position's gone. What my boss did instead, because I was such a good performer and I worked harder than I think the rest of my male team, believe it or not, was he actually promoted me and let go of somebody else that had worked in the company for way longer than I have, but he was lazy and didn't do that good of a job. And that's the way it should be, right? Not based on oh, you're a woman, let me give you the job. Oh, you're brown, let me give you the job. That's not how it should be.
Do you see that a lot in the younger generation as well? It actually, there was a quote from a movie that I'll never forget, Jesus Revolution. I don't know if you've seen that movie. Very good movie. Definitely you should watch it. It was about the 70s, the hippie era, and then that people were coming to Christ. And
I think I know what you're talking about.
It's a really good movie.
Yeah, I think you know what we're talking about.
But it's interesting because in the movie he said, all these people, all the hippies and everything, they're looking for all the right things in all the wrong places. They're looking for acceptance, love, and purpose. But they're getting it from drugs. And I kind of see it today. I'm like, well, look at what's happening in colleges and the younger generation, younger voters. What do they want? They want to feel included, they want to feel important, and they want to feel like they're a part of a movement. But what do? They go to the first thing that they see. Oh, all my friends are supporting Palestine and doing that. Let's go run there. Oh my gosh, all my friends are going against this. Let's go with them. But it's like, hold up. What if that feeling, you're not getting it from the right place? What if you should get it from actually building something respectable? What if you get it from building a business, running an organization, going through the grit, going through the pain of doing that, so you feel what it feels like to be a leader and the pain that it took? Do you think that's what's happening a little bit, a sense of entitlement from our generation?
They're losers. The losers of our society want the rest of the winners to, they just want to be given things. Everything needs to be given to me because I was just exist. And a lot of times we see it with women too. right? They're fat, they're just ugly, and they don't want to shower, and they just feel entitled, like, oh, the world's against me, I hate men, blah, blah, blah. It's like, have you seen yourself? Like, who the fuck wants to date you, right? The same thing with, like, you know, Antifa, which are the radical leftists. Yeah. They want to destroy property. When the whole George thing, Floyd happened, they were here vandalizing stuff, like vandalizing a random bike shop. Not kidding, like down the block. Like, what does a random bike shop have to do with the fact that somebody got killed or somebody died in Minneapolis? And that's what it is. They hate themselves. They don't want to admit it. They hate themselves. They hate their lives. They don't want to amount to anything. They don't want to work hard. They don't want to work hard to look better. So the rest of us have to accept them and cater to them and tell them yes, be yes people, and be scared of them, because if not, they're going to burn us down and kill us all. And I think that we just need to be the bigger bullies. Like, bullying works. And when I went to FIU, there was no gay stuff, there was no trans stuff, like none of these people
Communist,
existed.
socialist.
There was there was none of that, right? And everybody's turned out to be okay. Like, nobody killed themselves because there wasn't a gay acceptance like day or something. We had fraternities and sororities. I was in a sorority. I don't even know if they exist anymore. Do they exist? Greek life?
Sure, Greek life, yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay, so I was a Phi Sig at FIU, and
that one's still around.
We were, you know, the boys, there was different fraternities, the Gap, Pikes, this and this and that, and we knew gay people were there. We knew some of our sorority sisters were lesbians, and nobody was bullying them or belittling them or not accepting them because they liked other girls, or, you know, everybody was just normal. Nobody was trying to, oh, like, look at me, I'm a transgender, like, you know, look at me. I was at the Capitol last week, and I walked around our country's capital, Capitol Hill, and it was disgusting that I'm walking around and I'm seeing transgender flags outside of state representatives.
No, what's even worse is in that same area, there's also churches that are, I don't know the specific name, but churches that are LGBTQ churches. I'm like, oh, wow, yeah. Interesting. And,
you know, I asked the state representative, I said, why don't you guys ban these flags? Like, ban the gay flag, ban the freaking trans flag. Why do we need, the only flags that should be outside of your office are the US flag, your state flag, period, end of story. So if you're from Florida, you could have your little Florida flag and the US flag. And they're like, well, you know, we try to do that, but if we do that, then we have to ban the, you know, the other, like, flags that conservatives like to use, like the Don't Threat on Me and, you know, the Appeal to Heaven, which is like a Christian nationalism thing. So, you know, and then, you know, I'm meeting with this congressman and congresswoman, and they're telling me, oh, you have no idea. Like, one day, and of course, these come from like the worst states in America, like Oregon, California. One day it's like the transgender flag, and then another day it's like the transgender flag, the Ukraine flag, and then the Palestinian flag, you know, and then like it's just everything with the left is about social justice, and it's sickening, to be honest with you.
So what is the, like you said, something that we talked about earlier, that we can't complain because they're outworking us. They're recruiting more people on their side. They're doing this. They're making the moves. How can we complain? So for you, what does the political activism look for the younger generation to be a part of the winning side of this
right
fight?
Well, the biggest organization right now appealing to younger people is Turning Point USA and PragerU, which are doing great work. There's a lot of organizations that were actually created post-Trump era, like post-Trump leaving the White House. I'm affiliated I work with an organization called Citizens Defending Freedom. My podcast partner Isabella is actually the director of Florida for that organization. And through that, we've been able to do great work here, especially here in Miami. So there is a lot of movement happening post-Trump era. Same thing with the American First Institute, which are the ones that are helping me with my lawsuit against Twitter. So we've actually done a lot in the last 4 years, but the work never ends, because what happens is, like, I'll give you an example. In 2022, from 2020 to 2022, conservatives were very involved in local politics. This is where the school board culture war started. It all started with the mask. Parents didn't want kids to go to school with masks. So we started a school board revolution here in Miami. And I helped the parents put together protests outside of the school board. And hundreds of people showed up. I mean, the school board had never seen, they were so shocked. They had never seen that many people show up to hold them accountable. They were like scared. There was like police there. It was crazy. And that was happening all over the country. Every state, I mean, that you can think of, parents were fighting back against, the mask. But with that came the fact that parents started finding out more stuff about their schools. One of them being the pornographic LGBT, gender, whatever, confusion books. So the mask kind of was the catalyst to parents becoming more involved in the school board and in the education. There's a group called Moms for Liberty.
Heard of it.
They started around that time because it was concerned moms that were saying, wait a minute, a book about incest? And like this sounds like I'm exaggerating, but there was a testimony from a girl the other day, like this week, that viral video dropped where she read out loud the book that she was given to read by her teachers. And that included a story of two cousins having sex in the back of their grandma's house.
And how old was the child reading that?
She was like 14 years old. So parents start the school board revolution. Biden actually sends out the FBI and the Department of Justice. They actually put out a notice kind of saying that they think there's like a terrorism threat in school boards. They basically wanted to label parents like terrorists for standing up for their kids, education and their rights. So we actually did a lot. DeSantis got involved. We got a bill passed called the Parental Rights to Education Bill. Basically removed all these books from the different districts in Florida. The left calls it book banning, but whatever. Sure, we're banning books. We're the bad people. Who cares? So what happened was, when this happens, DeSantis wins the election by 20-something points. He even wins Miami-Dade. Crazy thing. Republicans relax. They think the fight is over. They're like, oh, we can just relax. DeSantis is won, and we passed this bill, and we got the books out. The left gets fired up because now, they got to fight back. They think they're like being, they think they're the victims now. Oh, we got to pull books back in school, and we got to fight for kids, and we got to do this. So, I told people, I said, you guys think that the fight is over when it's never over. Literally, it's never going to be over because the left is never going to give up. And they're pissed off that Florida is red. They're pissed off that Miami-Dade has gone almost completely Republican. They can't believe it. They're like, how could this be? How could this be? All these brown people, all these Latinos, we thought that they hated Trump. We think that they're gonna vote against them and their rights are being taken away. And meanwhile, they don't understand that the majority of Latinos, not just Cuban Americans, but you could say Colombians like myself, Venezuelans, whatever, mostly are Catholics. Like, we all come from 90% Catholic countries who are extremely socially conservative. And there's an order of like the nuclear family, the mom and the dad, the dad is usually they're machistas, right? What does that translate to? Misogynist? I mean, misogyny is like a bad word, but you know what I mean. And they don't get that. They don't get that cultural aspect. So it's easier for them to say, oh, like Latinos in South Florida they want to be white. They're appealing to white supremacy. Their roots. There's a book that just came out by Paola Ramos, where she's talks about how our conquistador roots it's the reason why we're turning towards the party of white people and white supremacy. And they just don't want to accept that their party went so far left that they're losing voters. Again, they don't want to admit they're the problem.
So let me ask you, if you do believe that the fight for America is real, what do you think's at stake?
Everything. Like your future, everything. Literally everything. I mean, I could be here all day talking about it. We can start off with the fact that we're taxed more than ever. 30%, right? Is that what we're being taxed right now? 30, 40%, depending on the states. So you're giving your money to the federal government who hates you and sends it to, like, I mean, I've audited some of the stuff and I've covered it before. I haven't done it in a while. We paid for like Afghanistan's like feminism programs, like $20 million. That's your money going to Afghanistan. Like what? The Ukraine war, the Israel-Palestinian war. We fund the most absurd things that you could imagine. Senator Ron Paul actually does a yearly like audit on what the feds spend our money on. And it's like the craziest things, like experiment on mice to see how they react to cocaine. Like crazy things like that. I tell you, you're like, bro, there's no way. And I'm like, no, there is a way. Lobster dinners, in DC. So, that's in terms of like our taxes, where our taxes going. And they want to increase it more. Why do they want to increase it? Because climate change. Now it's climate change. Oh, you need to pay more taxes. You need to pay carbon tax. If you pay just 10% more of your income, we can actually stop the climate, the world from a catastrophic event. Just think about that. These humans think that they have the power to control the climate and stop a catastrophic event. Like, does that now sound insane to you? Like, could you stop the hurricane that just hit us? No. The children's future, all this gender confusion stuff, which I completely reject. I don't care if I'm called a transphobe. I mean, you could, homophobe, whatever it is. We started off accepting homosexuality. Awesome. I have family members who are gay, lesbians as well. I have friends who are gay. I have no problem with these people. But it was supposed to be a thing of, we want equal rights. What does that mean? You are able to open a bank account. You're able to have housing. You won't be discriminated from a job. What everybody wants. But now it's not that. Now we have to celebrate a month. It's a whole month of same-sex, basically, is what it is. And it doesn't stop there. It stops at, now we have allowed gay men to have surrogates and adopt kids. Whatever, great. But it doesn't stop there. Now we have to insert it in education. And now we have to insert it in every single Netflix documentary. Now you can't watch anything without there being a gay couple, a transgender, a bigender, this, even Vikings. The last time I saw the show Vikings, there was a transgender in the show. I'm like, you have to be kidding me, right? And then it doesn't stop there. It's also corporate America. Because now you're in corporate and you have to take all these gay corporate trainings on how to be more kind to gay people and to bisexuals and to transgenders. And if we don't push back, it's going to get worse, because what's happened is that we've seen, and Democrats deny this, how they like to take kids to drag shows, which are extremely sexual and erotic. It used to be adult entertainment. All of a sudden, we have to support kids going to this. What, are we going to have a generation? We're going to have a future where everybody's gay and transsexual? And how are we going to procreate? Wombs, artificial wombs, right? These are things that are actually like happening that people don't want to talk about. And, housing, it's more expensive now to own a house than ever. When we first moved here, the first house that we owned with my parents, I think we bought it for $184,000, something like that. Beautiful house, three bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, large backyard, safe neighborhood, two car garage, 2 living rooms. I mean, a badass house, $184,000. Where can you buy a house for $184,000? In the boondocks, I guess, in Tennessee. I don't know, somewhere in Texas. Definitely not here. even in Homestead, a house is $500,000. So everything's more expensive. Our jobs are being shipped overseas, which means Americans are losing jobs. We have less people going into tech jobs and engineer, which means now we have to import Asians and Indians to do those jobs. And then the low wage jobs is going to the illegals. There's a lot of issues that America has that I'm not sure exactly how we can solve it. But I think young people don't think it's that bad, but it's that bad. Like, it's really bad.
And that's why I encourage you, if you believe the fight for America is real, is coming to you live. I want you to go to the link in the description, check it out, October 21st event. But I say that because I do believe the fight for America is real, and I do believe exactly everything you said is at stake, and much more, 10 times more, a lot more things that it may not seem real right now. It may seem, yeah, that's a little far-fetched. No, you're just a conspiracy theorist. Well, there's a lot of stuff that was a conspiracy theorist, that Trump was about to get assassinated. That was a conspiracy, and then it happened. Then it happened twice. Then it happened three. So it's like, the stuff that are conspiracists, the people that are conspiracists and things that are conspiracy.
Just give it a couple months, I'll be real.
Give it a couple months. And as well, I thank you for you coming on here, for taking the time to share your thoughts, share what you see going around you, because I think this is what we need more of. And I would like to do it with the other side as well, because I believe also the pathway to the unity is communication. It's very simple. It's something that is
we'll try that with a Democrat who thinks that Nazis exist in 2024.
Well, I'll be happy to sit down with that person and talk to him, speak about that. But like I said, I think that genuinely communication is the key to unity.
Yeah.
Why not have both parties on an open podcast, Talk to Him for 3? Why not have, so many other ways of communicating with both sides of the party and see, hey, what are things that we agree on? Because I don't think you're against humanity. Oh, I guess you are. Okay, and then never mind. There's a lot of different things that communication, I think, will solve. But thank you again so much for taking the time. Anything that you want to leave the audience on?
You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Wake Up with Linda. I have a podcast which we will start again called Mostly Peaceful Latinas on YouTube. We are also on Twitter, and I encourage you to, if you follow people like myself, you'll see I do a lot of local activism, cover local politics, like current events and culture. And I encourage you, if you cannot become involved, or if you're scared because of your job, your family, whatever, then support those who do, whether it's financially, whether it's resharing their content, however it may be, because I'm telling you right now, as somebody who knows like a lot of what goes on the inside, it's worse than people think that it is. Yeah. Wow. And it's not over. Even if Trump gets elected, Trump it's going to be dealing with like foreign policy, immigration, federal stuff. But the local politics is way more important than anything else. You could do so much locally. So I encourage people to, get involved in their local politics, know who their commissioners, their mayors, look into who's running. Is the last thing I'll say. We just had local elections here in Miami, the primary. Yeah. Only 20% of people showed up to vote, of registered voters, across the aisle, not just Republicans, Democrats. 20%. These are people that actually affect your day-to-day, the tax collector, right? Your commissioners, your mayor. That is who affects your day-to-day, not Washington, D.C., right? And 20% of people voted. That's it. So some of these elections are literally won by 100 votes. Sometimes that's 20 votes. People don't care enough, and then they want to complain. So I'd say pay more attention to that.
Pay more attention, guys. And if you believe the fight for America is real, I believe that it also starts with what you have in front of you. You have to be faithful with the little things, with what you have in front of you. The dinner table, be openly talk about it. Talk about your faith. Talk about, what you see going on in America. If you're at school, if you're in a classroom, talk about that. If you're at your job, hey, the conversation or the lunch breaks, why don't you just bring it up? See what happens. Oh, you're afraid of that? Oh, okay, well, I guess you don't value your sanity of here living in a beautiful country. But thank you guys for making it to the end. I'm going to link all her social media, X, Twitter, X, Instagram, YouTube, everything. So you guys can check it out. Thank you guys again for making it to the end. And like I said, October 21st, the Fight for America, special guest announcement coming soon. But the Fight for America is coming to you live. FIU, GC 140, 12 to 4 p.m. Amazing guest speakers. Just check it out. Link in the description. Guys, thank you. And I'll see you on the next one.